How's it going, YouTube? Back from Vibes here. Figured I'd record what I'm doing to the car. I'm gonna be upgrading the driveline, the rear end on this thing. Let's look at the post damages. I just dropped the exhaust off. The axle boot is torn again. So there's some damages going on that I need to address. Right now, I am just kind of taking stuff apart to prep it to get over to the shop. I'm still waiting on parts. So I ordered a Nissan Pathfinder differential, and those have 2 studs instead of 1. So what I'm going to do is swap the cover. I have to drill a hole in my subframe somewhere about like there-ish. We weld in a collar, and then the 2 studs will be secured by the subframe instead of just the 1. So I hopefully won't be snapping diff studs again. We're going to be doing solid subframe bushings, so I'm going to be raising the subframe up 5 mil. So I'll have to address that, and hopefully that will straighten the axles back out a little bit, because right now with it on the ground, the axles are like up like this, you know. So there's a lot of work that I need to do to this car. It's drift prep. It's in between drift event prep. Not sure when the next event is. Also, just got this in the mail. So this is going to be a conversion that we're going to be doing. We're going to be switching over to a dual stud cover in this car, so we stop snapping studs. The last diff stud I bought only lasted 5 drift days. So I need to make sure that the fill and the drain port can be cracked loose too. This diff cover looks pretty crusty, so I just wanted to chime in here. Doing this dual stud diff swap is definitely a bit overkill. Don't think that everybody would need to do this. I'm just covering my bases so I don't ever have to swap a diff stud at the track again. Probably could have gotten away with swapping to like a solid bushing and maybe a beefier diff brace. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. Just making sure we can get the fill and drain port out and then getting this cover off. Diff cover's out, and we can clean up the inside. We have a dual stud cover that we are going to be putting into the 370, so I'm very happy about this. This is going to be a huge upgrade, and we're doing a lot of things to the rear end, so it's going to be good. No more replacing these freaking studs at the track. I'm not doing that again. So we'll clean this up and get back to you guys. Okay, so we have gotten to a point where I need to get this Z over to the shop. Got some new axles, these are remanufactured axles. They're the NVA axles from Z1, so we're gonna see how these hold up over time. They're not cheap. They're like 180 a piece, but we'll see how they hold up for drifting. I bought some different bushings. These are Z1 poly bushings. As well as that, we have a nice dual stud cover now to put onto the back of my differential. So this is going to be very much a game changer. I'm hoping I will not be breaking diff studs anymore. I might actually look at these bushings, but these are the stock Pathfinder diff studs. Let's see if we can get a side shot of these with the new ones I bought. Yeah, so I initially bought these diff studs. I bought like 3 diff studs because I was thinking I would just replace the diff studs at the track, but yeah, I need to upgrade. Look at the difference here from the Pathfinder diff stud to a 370Z diff stud. Look how small this is in comparison. So I guess an upgrade, what some guys do is run solid bushings, and then they drill out the solid bushings to accept Pathfinder studs when they pick some of these up. So we might even see if I can run these studs instead. So let's look at this bushing. So it's like a solid bushing inside of a, no way. I think that's gonna fit. No way, dude. Hold the phone. I've been trying to get these nuts off of these studs to like double check that I can use these studs, the Pathfinder studs, but these nuts are on there. So, you know, it's seized onto the stud right now. So what I'm doing is trying to tighten the stud in there with the nut that's seized on. I've got some pieces of wax, some candle wax. We're gonna heat up the stud or the nut. See if we can get this free. Doesn't look like it. Oh, actually it is. It's coming off. So that is an easy way to get the nuts free. If you're in the Rust Belt, you should definitely try candle wax. Really good idea. Let's see if we can do the same thing on this stud as well, so we can get the nut free from this stud. So this is the Z1 bushing that goes inside the poly casing. Yep. I think that's gonna work. Although, let's double confirm. Got a stock stud for a 370 here. We're gonna see if the bushing seats all the way over this little nipple. There's like this little nipple here on the diff studs, and this bushing is not going over that nipple. So will it go over this? Yes, it will. So we will need to drill out this by a little bit in order to use the Pathfinder studs, because again, this kind of stops like right there and it won't seat up against the differential. So that is what we need it to do. Let's double check with the GKtech Weldon bushing. So this is what's gonna go into the subframe. This is gonna get welded on both sides and take place for the second diff stud. So this will be on this side. Let's see, does this fit over? It doesn't even fit over the threads. So what we're gonna need to do if we want to use these studs is drill them out. So the base shank of these studs and of the Pathfinder studs are the same. The stock 370 stud, you guys saw it pass through this one no problem, and this is from Z1 Motorsports. They engineer things for Zs. The stud didn't pass through all the way with this one, but it kind of seated down into it. I'm considering just drilling out these holes so the Pathfinder stud here will pass right on through it. And I don't think that would affect the compatibility with a 370 style stud, but I might not end up using these GKtech Pathfinder to 370 studs here. So I'm gonna see how common Pathfinder studs are, I guess. I don't know. We're figuring stuff out. We got the 11/16 drill bit. So one thing I found funny was with the dual stud conversion kit, I did have to drill out the GKtech bushing and well also the Z1 bushing to accept the Pathfinder studs, so keep that in mind. Alright, that took a little while, but we've got the bushings drilled out to 11/16. So yeah, got the bushings drilled out. Now it should seat with the differential. This one does. It looks like it actually does seat up just fine. So that's ready to go. Hell yeah. All right, so it is time to work on this thing again. Got some major work to do. Gonna bring it over to the shop, start plugging away at it, and I will update you guys along the way. All right. Oh man, I love this car. So here we're just taking everything out of the car that we took off at the house. To get it on the lift, I usually use ramps. I back it up on ramps that have markings on the floor right about where it's equal. Get those arms set, and then I start to bring it up in the air. Start to bring it up a little bit at a time. I'm kind of new to the whole lift thing, so I'm extra careful. I like to shake it before I send it up all the way and make sure it's good to go before I get under it. So taking more crap out and gonna get to the wheels and gonna finally start working on this thing. Haha. Come on. Almost. Yeah, let's go. All right, so I got that old cotter pin out. I did not think I was gonna get that out with the wheel spacer on. So one thing I'm noticing, my axle stubs, these are threaded. I don't think the new ones I got are, so I'm gonna have to probably figure out a way to through bolt them, which is something I've actually been wanting to do for a while, because right now the only way to get these off is with a wrench on the inside. I gotta break them loose and then do them by hand because I can't get a ratchet in between here. So I think we might be upgrading our fasteners that hold our axles together to our diff while we go ahead and do this. I just got both axle nuts off. So now I am getting these off as well. Oh, that slid out nice and easy. Guys, always should grease your axle stubs there. Not very knowledgeable about this stuff, but I think the axle on the passenger side is fine. So I have a spare axle. I almost think that the driver's side is okay now. We will find out. That was the repair I did. Yeah. No, that tore the entire way around, so. Going to, I mean, the feeling of it, there's no play this way, so I think that's good. And then this side, same thing. So just gonna take off my old axle spacers. If you guys don't run axle spacers, I highly recommend it, especially on a lowered car. These are 10 mil axle spacers from GKtech, so make sure you put these on the new ones. This rear disc got out. It's a 17. I might need a bigger bar for this though. Oh, that was really loose. I don't like that. I definitely tightened that to spec when I was at Vibes. Maybe that's why my diff studs keep breaking, because I don't ever bolt check this. So it's probably been coming loose, and the bushing's probably been separating from the rear of the diff cover, giving a little space for the diff stud to snap. Sweet, diff's out. So, got a lot of prep to do with this guy. So we are going to be replacing these GKtech poly bushings with the Z1 bushing. So this bushing was moving real easy at Vibes, so we'll see if I can punch it out. Alright, so that's the old bushing. As you can see, this is a poly around like that steel insert that's inside. This thing got chewed up a little bit, and you can see it's rotated a couple times. So we are going to replace this one with the new Z1 bushing. So, and this is the new bushing we're going with. So as you can see, it's a steel bush inside of a poly bush. So I think that this is gonna last a little bit better. You know, it's not gonna get chewed up. So seeing how easy that came out, I decided to just try and hammer it in, and it did work. I'd hammered it in without the steel bush. And then also here I've got my own diff bushing installation tool. It's a piece of all thread, I believe it's a 5/16 with some pretty thick washers. You can make one of these really cheap, so I wouldn't really bother buying the one they sell unless you actually work in a shop that requires this tool all the time. I've used this tool twice and it's holding up still. So just gonna get this steel insert in the poly bush, and the tool does work out pretty damn well. Getting to these diff bushings, removing these old ones I'm hoping should be pretty easy. I just grab a 3/8 extension that's pretty close to the size of this. I could probably also just rerun these. There's nothing wrong with these. And really there's nothing wrong with the bushing I took out. I just like this design a little bit better. Sorry GK, I love your parts. Yeah, we'll just get it started. Cool. So I have spare diff bushings, I guess. This thing's probably fine, but still gonna change it. I bet it's reusable. That's cool. Put in these Johns. Installing the front bushings is pretty easy. You just slip in those poly bits and hammer in the sleeves, and then we're on to taking off the rear cover. One tip is once you get all the bolts off, hammer it with a mallet that kind of breaks the seal of that RTV, and then you can pry it up with a screwdriver. Also with the RTV, just scrape it off at first, and using a little bit of gasoline on a rag is a really awesome way to get up the really embedded bits of RTV, so you have a really nice clean surface. All right, let's get this new cover on. I just cleaned up the old hardware on the wire wheel. All right, so gasket maker has been sitting for a little bit. and we are ready to put this cover back on. All right, so got all my brake calipers off. Now I think the only thing that we have to do is disconnect the handbrake cables, and then these speed sensor harness here needs to get disconnected from the subframe. Subframe stays need to come out, so this W brace will need to come out, and that, you know, that's nice. It's gonna need to bend that back to get those front bolts out. That's fun. Woo! Let's go. Yeah, we're gonna get these torqued down now. The cover's been sitting for about 45 minutes. So just got the W brace out. Gonna get to the subframe stuff. I should probably also try and disconnect these e-brake cables. Actually, I'm gonna try and do that first. So I think I'll do these two here, and then I should be able to unhook the cables from the one cable in there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah. Let's see if we have enough slack. So these cables kind of hook up like a bicycle brake. You need a lot of slack to be able to undo them. So I had to undo these two fasteners back here that are holding on the handbrake cables. So getting those off definitely gave us enough room to get that out. It's a pain in the butt. They get a little stuck, but it's overall pretty easy. All right, that was very annoying. But yeah, now we don't need to access the drum brakes anymore. We got the e-brake cables out, so that's really convenient. So now we are taking the wheel speed harness off of the subframe. Some of it's clipped to it, so best to remove that now, and also swinging around and taking off the hardware for the subframe brace stays, and we can finally start cracking this hardware loose for the subframe. Nice. Oh shit. Okay. Swinging back down under here, we can get our coilover hardware off the knuckle here. And once we get that off, we can get our subframe brace stays off as well. Just putting it back on for security purposes. So now with that all finally done, we can get the subframe out of the car, just lowering it down onto a dolly. Make sure you've got all your brake calipers secured, everything out of the way. Double check as you're bringing it down, but other than that, it came out pretty easy. Let's go! It's out! Oh yeah! This is gonna be a fun one, taking these bushings out. The vent tube. It looks like the vent tube dip goes right into the subframe, which is funny. And yeah, there's one of the speed sensors that's attached to the subframe for some reason. Yeah, and now it's on wheels, so we can move it around. Most of the studs are looking pretty good. The only one that actually looks bad is this one. So I'm gonna, before I put it back together, we'll just wire wheel this down and paint over it real quick, or maybe just wire wheel it down and then put some oil on it or whatever. But yeah, that is out. Not that hard to do. I imagine I can put it back in the same way. So yeah, not too bad. Oh yeah, and right here you can clearly see the fuel lines that I routed for the radium in-tank surge tank. I might zip tie those up a little bit now that I can see them, maybe not, but yeah, that's the gas tank. So this is a saddlebag gas tank, and this is why the 370s, like, they fuel cut super, super quick. Like, all the fuel will slosh over to this side and the pump doesn't get any fuel. So yeah, not the best design on the gas tank. I've had thoughts about cutting this and just welding up the gas tank, half of it, and then going back to the stock system, but we'll see. We are burning that out right now, so it's gonna take a long time, but yeah. All right, heads up to all the homies, be very careful when you're doing this. I just got splashed in the face by this really hot freaking bushing grease. Whew, oh my God. Yeah, don't stand too close to this while it's burning, because that can explode in your face. Thankfully I'm all right, but that was sketchy. Woo. But burning these out, it's taking a while. That one blew up in my face, so be careful. Wait for like these to sizzle, or if you hear any bubbling at all, back away from it, because it's about to burst. So that one burst in my face. I don't know if you guys can see anything, but didn't get anything on my eyeball or anything like that. So, but yep, this is burning away. It's gonna take a little while before we're ready to cut the metal sleeve out. All right, so it is the next day. Gonna work on cutting these rubber bushings out, the rest of them, what's left of them. As well, we need to drill a hole for this second diff bushing. Got Anthony coming over to weld that up for me. So I might start on drilling first, just to prep that for when he gets here. GKtech says to level this subframe. I believe they're talking about left and right, so if we level that, this needs to come up a little bit on this side. But once we get this level, we go to this, and then we level this bracket and tighten it down. That's where that hole's gonna go. Just double check everything is level. All right, so we got that leveled and marked. So I'm gonna take a 1/4-inch drill bit and drill this in. Cool. All right, so we got the holes drilled. We got this prepped for welding. Anthony's here. We're gonna be looking up if we can find a weld through primer for this, because there's gonna be just exposed metal on the inside. We'll put the diff in, tack weld the bushing in place where it's meant to be, and then take the diff out and weld it all the way around. I guess we'll get this bolted back up and then get that in. Something like that. Looking good, dude. Now I just gotta do the other side.
Probably try and slide that diff in there again.
Yeah.
Just make sure everything lines up nice and
Bolt it back, take it back out, paint it probably.
yeah.
Yeah. Looking minty. Minty mint. Very nice. This is the old hole that the diff stud used to go into.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Way over there.
Or not diff stud, diff brace.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah. So everything's in and it fits. So we are good to let this cool off and paint it and then put it back in the car once I do the subframe bushings. Not looking forward to doing that.
Part of the job.
It really is. So, oh, I'm beat. Thank you again, sir.
Fuck yeah. Glad I could help.
Yep. This is a big upgrade. All right, so Anthony just left. Just ground this down and we are gonna paint it. It has cooled off. We're gonna paint that before we do the subframe bushings. Oh, let's give this a shot. This is the front here. The hard part is getting this like to not go through the sleeve that you're pressing into. But I'm cutting 2 slots right now so I can punch out that inner sliver and then hopefully punch it out with the air hammer. If you don't have an air hammer, you can do it with a hammer and a chisel. So what I'm trying to do here is make 2 cuts so that I can punch out that little sliver so that the bushing compresses on itself and makes it easier to remove it. If you don't cut through it all the way, you end up something like this where you're having to go back multiple times and do multiple cuts instead of just 2. So make sure you get through that sleeve the first time. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. That's annoying. Whew. Yeah, so that is the stock bushing. Yeah, it looks like I didn't quite get through this all the way. That's why it was giving me such a hard time, but it did free up with the air hammer and came up. Compared to the other bushings or sleeves that we need to remove, it looks like these are upside down, so I'm going to need to flip the subframe the other way to be able to air hammer these out. So I got luckier on this side. I made the 2 cuts, and when I take the hammer out, it just kind of broke off 1/2 of that sleeve, but left me room to cut the other side all the way through. But that is really what you want to do, is try to get through that all the way and then punch it out. Kind of marred up the sleeve a bit with the air hammer there, but not bad. That is a pain in the ass, dude. Oh yeah. All right, so it's the next day. I'm gonna press these in. Already got 2 of them in. Not bad. Got those in. I'm gonna do the other side. So I gotta flip the subframe around and get these in. But yeah, I greased the holes. I wire wheeled them out and greased them. All right. That's it. Yeah, so got that positioned about where I want it. Just gonna kind of rest that in there, and then we'll get it centered. Cool. I don't know if you could do this without a press. Like, feeling the force needed to do this, you definitely might need to bring it to a press. So, not sure if a mallet would do it. Okay, second one, or I guess the last one's going in now. Well, so subframe is painted, and I am re-threading these holes. I just re-threaded this. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, I got new bolts on the way, but I did re-dye this, chase the threads. But yeah, just a quick heads up. These holes, I had no idea, but yeah, you see that? Like, they're not welded in. So keep that in mind when you're taking in and out your differential, and make sure it's threaded properly, because I messed up. So fun stuff. Yeah, so these threads look okay. Like, those are okay. And I just retapped both of these. But those, you see the top half of those threads are not looking great. I've been doing some looking around, and it seems like I might be able to helicoil this. It does thread, but I'm just worried about it holding torque. So just getting this helicoil in, using some WD-40 to use as some coating oil. Looking back on this now, I should have used red Loctite when installing this helicoil. And probably next time I do this, I will try to do a time cert or something a little bit more stout for this job. But it should work. So we got the helicoil in. Now we gotta try to punch that out, and hopefully it all works out. So that is repaired. We got that helicoil in. I don't know if I said this already, but I painted my subframe. I will powder coat it later. Just wanted to rust prevent what we can for now. And I'm doing the same thing with these braces. I just pressure wash these off so all the lanolin wax off of them. And then I also cleaned up this subframe brace stay. So I'm gonna wire wheel these down real quick, and then give them a quick spray job. Got all the suspension attached back to the subframe. Nothing's tight at all. It's just finger tightened on because I want to get the coilover bolted up to, you know, not tear up these bushings. Very excited to get this back in the car. Pretty much just gonna lower the car onto the subframe and then just bolt it up. So I am leaving the top control arms loose so that the stock bushings don't get torn up. You want to leave those loose until you get the coilover bolted, so that at least it's at full droop with the coilover and not the whole suspension. The bushings can tear. All right, so with this kit, we're not including the thin spacer with the thick spacer up front, and then we are going with no spacer in the back and a thin washer spacer for the rear. I'm gonna raise that up a bit. All right, so that is good. And then no spacer in the rear. Perfect. All right. Oh, it feels so good to get back in there. Subframe is back in the car now. Everything is torqued down for the most part, except for the brakes. All the arms are on. E-brake cables are routed, hooked back up, secured. Everything is good to go. Get the axles in next, then the diff. This project has been kicking my butt. But yeah, we're getting it done, and I'm really looking forward to see what this is gonna feel like after the fact. So, should always grease these splines up with the 370Z, and as well, I do have my axle spacer on there from GKtech. Really recommend the axle spacer for lowered cars. Gonna get these in. All right, so it kind of came along a snag here. So these bolts are completely different sizes. This is like probably like a 38 or something. I gotta use a bigger one. But anyways, the problem I have, this nut is also shorter. So I gotta get some washers for this to space it out far enough so that I can get a cotter pin in this. Very, very annoying. You can see it better. I think I left this one torqued on. But yeah, you can see that hole sticks above the nut, which is kind of crazy because I also do have axle spacers, and I do also have a dual caliper bracket that makes the hub stick out farther. So there's about 20 mil that this axle is sitting further in. So I'm very surprised that that is not making contact. But gonna go to the store, get some washers, and then continue on this project. We did get some washers from the hardware store. I'm needing to grind these down. These are 7/8 washer, and they're pretty thick. They're probably what, 2.5 mil, 3 mil thick. Okay. Also, I am wearing a respirator and eye protection at the same time. So, you know, anytime you're working with like a galvanized or zinc anything, you really should wear a mask. So, just a little tip there for you guys. All right, back at the shop. Made up those washers. We can go ahead and lower this thing down and finally get that diff in. So, looking forward to doing this. It's been a long time. The diff has finally been in the car. I've got the torque specs. It's 74 foot-pounds for the front and 81 for the rear of the diff bushing. So we're gonna do that. Now all I need to do is get the axle hardware in, torque that down, all the bracing, drive shaft, bolt that up. I'll actually bolt that up real quick. Not a whole lot left to do, so very exciting. Yeah, just so that's not hanging, get a couple of those in there. Next clip, I will have eaten a steak and cheese sub, and we will be torquing these down. All right, so just want to show you guys the hardware we're using. Some hex cap screws. These are, I believe, a 10.9 grade with a washer. I believe these are a by 40, and then I have a flange nut here. And that's what we're using on these axles. You can't put them all in at once because it's not enough clearance on the diff housing. Brought my brother's dogs over to the shop. I'm gonna try to finish up some of this stuff here. Yeah, pretty much everything's torqued down. I got the axles done. Drive shaft is torqued down. Pretty much just gotta get that middle portion of the exhaust on and all that stuff. But yeah, not bad. All right, so just got the W brace on. That's cool. Yeah, just gonna get that exhaust on. Gotta find bolts for these speed sensors as well. So very, very happy about that. It's taken me a long time to get through this. Looks really nice. Good car. All right. Took a little bit to get these notches to line up. I am reusing my old hardware and I forgot which side was on what, so I actually don't need any washers. I'm not using that new castle nut. So I'm gonna torque this one down to 133 foot-pounds. Yep, that all lines up perfectly. Now we gotta get the wheel spacer off so we can get that cotter pin in there. Get these off. With these short lug nuts, you do not want to use an impact on these. They're pretty soft. So. I think these are good to reuse. They like to get chewed up pretty easily. You do not want to use an impact on these short lug nuts. So I'm probably going to reuse those. I do have 9 spares now, so that's cool. Get this cotter pin in. If you made it this far into the video, let me know if you spread both legs of the cotter pin out opposite ways or both to one side. All right, and we are done with this project. So we definitely got a lot of work done. Took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but yeah, that was a pain in the butt, mainly the bushings. So yeah, I'm gonna see what this thing feels like. I do need to realign the rear end because I did raise the subframe up a little bit by like 5 millimeters. So I'm assuming the alignment is now off in the back. So that's one more thing I need to do. And yeah, should be good to drive this car and, you know, see what it feels like. So we'll see if I can throw a clip of me driving this. All right, so finally comes the time where I get to test drive this car. So yeah, I'll let you know what I think crazy change in sound, dude. Wow. It sounds like a freaking race car now. Hold on. Yeah, so I don't normally use the selfie camera, but you guys have to hear this. This is gnarly. How loud this drivetrain is now. Just gonna go through the gears. Man, I didn't know my diff was that loud. Wow. I kind of don't mind it, but if you're daily driving this, solid subframe bushings are not the move if you're doing a daily driver. If you're racing though, if you're drifting, pretty sweet. You guys have to see what this sounds like on the highway. Let's go at 68. I would not recommend doing the dual stud plus solid diff bushings together if you daily drive your car. But again, if you drift it, you know, it's a drift car. It is most definitely a drift car. It's basically a race car, except for the freaking kid that needs a cage. I haven't really gotten to throw it around at all or do any real handling tests, but on-off power feels good. That's 80 miles an hour right there. I wonder if it's that loud outside of the car. I think that's it for the video. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Hope to catch you in the next one. Have a nice night, day, wherever you are. Peace out.